Buster Faulkner is one hell of an offensive coordinator, and he knows how to use the weapons on Florida's roster.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free by visiting the podcast and on YouTube. I am Brandon Olsen, as always, and Buster Faulkner, great offensive coordinator. We've talked about him a lot. We've talked about what the offense might look like earlier today. We spoke about some specifics yesterday. We spoke about four verts, which incredible concept that I think a lot of people know, especially if you played video games before. But today I wanted to talk a little bit about the personnel. This is something that I'm also working on for swampsignal.substack.com. And so that's what we're talking about here today, right? It's the personnel groupings that I think you're going to see a lot of under Buster Faulkner this year. And I want to be clear with this also. I don't think that what you see this year is necessarily indicative of what you're going to see next year. Buster Faulkner has changed things a lot. At Georgia Tech, there was a lot of 11 and 12 personnel, which again, we've spoken about a lot. I think that had more to do with the lack of depth and talented weapons throughout, more than it had to do with this is what Buster Faulkner wants to do. Similar to talking about the quarterback run game. Like, yes, it's something that he wants to do, but he doesn't want to be super reliant on it. At Florida, I think that you're going to see a lot of 11 personnel, right? I think that we all agree on that one. And if you don't, I'll explain the personnels as we talk. 11 personnel is the most common personnel grouping in college football, professional football. I'm not going to say high school because I feel like you see just so much variety of like the wing T offenses and all that stuff in high school. So I'm not going to say high school, but in college and the NFL, teams more often than not are going to be running 11 personnel, which is one running back, one tight end, three receivers. The way that you can find out the personnel grouping is if there's like the first number is the running back. So if there's a running back, it doesn't matter where he's lined up, by the way. If he's a running back lined up out wide, he's still a running back, right? So that's still the one. So there's 11 personnel, one running back, one tight end. And then you add those numbers up and subtract the difference from 5. And so there's one running back, one tight end. That means there's 2 players there. It means you got 3 receivers because there's 5 pass catchers. Boom. And I think that 11 personnel is going to be a thing that's probably the most commonly called personnel groupings for Florida this year, because of course you have the weapons of, first off, at running back, Jadan Baugh. There's your one. You have tight end. Going to be real with you, don't feel as confident in it, but there is a mismatch advantage for having a tight end out there, and there is a statistical advantage to having a tight end available, whether that's flexed out or in the box, and so or attached to the line. And so you are often going to have a tight end there, right? And then you got the 3 receivers, which are primarily Dallas Olsen, Singleton Jr, and Vernell Brown III, right? So those are your 3 guys where it's like, all right, get you on the field. And it allows you to do a lot, right? Like it allows you to make sure the defense comes out in nickel. And if you want to come out in base, good luck. Like you want to come out in base, you're essentially going to dare Florida to throw the ball at that point. Because if you're bringing in an extra linebacker, taking off a DB, that's kind of like, hey, we are not letting Jadan Baugh get off, which is fine. This offense is built to attack that and built to keep you away from doing that. That is one of the reasons that you go 11 personnel, is so that, hey, you can't really bring another linebacker onto the field. You have to bring one off and put a DB out there. Then we've got your, generally 4 down linemen, your 2 off-ball linebackers. We've got 5 offensive linemen. We've got a tight end. It's 6 on 6 there, not including the guy you're going to give the ball. So that gives the offense the advantage there. If you run a read option out of that, that gives you even another advantage as far as running the football there. So you go out into nickel and you take a linebacker off the field. And if they keep a linebacker out there, then that means that you've got a linebacker or a safety covering a slot receiver, linebacker covering your tight end, running back, see how that goes. And so that's your point of attack, we'll call it, right? Is that you force the defense to make a decision and you can attack them based on that decision. And so 11 personnel is the most common personnel grouping in football right now. It was the most common used personnel grouping for Florida last year, most common personnel grouping for Georgia Tech last year. Despite, I think a lot of people would probably say, hey, those were 12 personnel offenses. They're considered 12 personnel offenses because they went 12 personnel more than people see and more than people are used to seeing when you watch any game on a Saturday. They still based out of 11. That's what offense is now in 2026, and it's what offense has been for the past few years. We're going to talk about the second, I'm going to say, most frequent personnel grouping that I'm expecting to see from the Florida Gators when we get back with Locked On Gators. There are more live events than ever worth seeing right now. Games, concerts, comedy shows, festivals. The hard part usually isn't deciding what you want to attend. It's actually getting the tickets. Between long wait times, confusing checkout processes, and surprise fees, buying tickets can sometimes feel harder than it should. That's why so many fans are turning to Game Time. The app is built to make buying tickets simple with upfront pricing, seat views before you buy, and exclusive savings opportunities that help you get to the events you want without the usual hassle. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets of every type of event with Game Time. I bought my tickets to the FAU game next week on Game Time. It's how I always buy Florida Gators tickets, and it's how I always buy tickets for any concert or game that I go to. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free, referencing the podcast and on YouTube. I'm not really sure why I said ep like that with a pop, but I did it anyway, right? The second most common personnel grouping I think that you'll see from the Florida Gators offense this year is actually 10 personnel, right? It could be 12, right? Like I'm going to make this clear. It'll be 11. And then I think you'll have 10 and 12 probably somewhat evenly used. I think you see a bit of 21 or 20 maybe, but 11 personnel, one running back, one tight end, three receivers, 10 personnel, one running back, no tight ends, four wide receivers. And there's a couple of reasons for why I think this. Again, when we talk about Buster Faulkner and what he has done throughout his career, he has typically went, hey, what are the strengths of my roster? How can I get those guys on the field as much as possible? I think the overwhelming majority of fans will agree that the strength of your roster, if you're the Florida Gators, or the strength of your offense, we'll say, wide receiver or running back, right? If you disagree with that, let me know because I'd love to hear why. But I think most people would agree that the strength of your offense, if you're Florida, wide receiver or running back. And I personally, I think that it's wide receiver, just because I think that I think it's wide receiver because I think you can actually get a good handful of them on the field at once, where running back, you could argue running back is a deeper room than wide receiver, sure. But every time that you want to go into the next batch of running back, you have to take a Jadan Baugh off the field. And there's nobody close to as good as Jadan Baugh in that running back room. So there is a drop off there. Whereas wide receiver, you could have Dallas, Eric Singleton Jr., Vernell Brown III. You bring Micah Mays on, and that's your four. You could take one of them off, bring in Bailey Stockton, TJ Abrams, Justin Williams. And like there's a drop off every time, right? But you can still have the top guys on the field with other weapons. So that's why I'm going to say it's wide receiver. And so Buster Faulkner has always gone, what's the strength of my offensive personnel? How can I get them on the field more? That's what he's going to do, right? Like that's what he's always done. And so for me, I'm looking at wide receiver and I go, well, Dallas Wilson, Eric Singleton Jr., Vernell Brown III, Micah Mays. You get them on the field and you put four receiver sets and you keep Jadan Baugh on the field. And similar to how we were talking about 11 personnel means, hey, you have to take a linebacker off the field from your three linebackers and put three off-ball linebackers and put a safety or corner, star, whatever you want to call them, out there. When you go into four wide receiver sets, you can stay in nickel, But now we guarantee that there's a linebacker that's going to be covering a wide receiver somewhere. Whether it's man or zone, there's going to be a linebacker near a receiver. If we come out with 4 receivers and you've got unless you're blitzing, then different conversation, but then we're just getting rid of the ball as quick as we can, preferably to the flats and attacking that way, right? And so we know that we've got probably a mismatch nightmare or a mismatch somewhere. You could talk about even if you put a safety on a receiver, that's still considered a mismatch for a lot of guys. Okay. So there's a safety or a linebacker. They now have to cover Vernell Brown III or Eric Singleton Jr. And that's not necessarily fun. And I say that because if you've got Dallas and Micah Mays on the field, I expect them both to be on the outside. And that allows you to put Vernell Brown III and Eric Singleton Jr. in the slot and attack that way. And so that's, I think, where we go, all right, well, now you need to take another linebacker off the field and bring in another DB, and you have to go in dime, which dime is 4 corners or 2 outside corners, 2 slot defenders, and 2 safeties. And now you have to go dime. And that means that you've got 4 down linemen, a linebacker, and we've got 5 offensive linemen. Again, we're in the same boat here, right? Where we've got 5 blockers, you've got 5 defenders. That gives us the advantage with the guy actually running the ball. If we run an option play, then we have the advantage again because your unblocked defender, if we hand it off to the running back, he's gone, right? Like if you stand up and you prevent the quarterback from keeping it, then he hands it off to the running back, and that means that they've still got 5 blockers to now 4 defenders because backside edge is taken out of the play. If he runs in, quarterback keeps it, and now it's just him running. And so I think that you're going to see a lot of 10 personnel this year. And by a lot, I mean maybe like 15, 20% of the plays. I don't know. I'm just throwing a number out there. I still think you'll see 11, probably like 40, 50%, maybe more. And so I think 10 personnel gives you a lot of advantages. It gets you, quick game is always an option. So are 4 verts with just speed out there. It gives you a lot of options in the passing game and makes the running game a little bit easier by taking linebackers away from the box. It's one of the reasons you see offenses like Tennessee and Auburn where they have the widest splits possible because it means that you have to have a light box. And if we can run the football, then we're going to run the football there. And so I think that that's a thing where you can say, hey, 10 personnel, but we're still going to try to run the football here. And I think Florida can do that with Buster Faulkner. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free. Reviews in the podcast and on YouTube. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all of my written work about the Florida Gators at swampsignal.substack.com. I'll see you all next time.